But guess what my market value as a player would have been coming out of school?
What? What was it?
$800,000.
Jesus. You've raised millions of dollars pre-launch.
We raised a little bit more than the initial $500,000 that we were targeting.
Just a little bit more.
They gave me a laptop and were like, go find us the next Atlassian, go find us the next Facebook, go find us the next Slack. A lot of this infrastructure is in the process of being built, as well as rapidly evolving, which is one of the issues that Mira is trying to solve. Crypto gets a bad rap a lot of the time, but it has been super impactful for so many different people's lives, especially, citizens of countries where inflation is much higher than in the US. And my mom at the time was like, you should start putting your money into Bitcoin. And I'm like, Mom, be quiet. What are you talking about?
Wow, your mom was trying to put you on game. Let's go, baby. My name's Noah Lack, and this is another episode of the Athletes and Assets podcast. I bring on some of your favorite athletes to chat about the businesses they're building. Today, we got my guy, Stone Gettings, former Cornell basketball to Arizona basketball star, started in venture capital, and then actually went back and played professional basketball overseas, has always loved crypto, is now the co-founder of a company called Mira, which is combining this open source, OpenAI type model structure, but adding a little crypto in it so you as a developer could actually be compensated accordingly. This is really fascinating, like moonshot stuff that's building. I'm really excited to talk to him. And Stone, really appreciate you coming on the podcast and sharing a little bit. As you guys are just coming out of stealth, raised millions of dollars, and now are just coming out to the world. So really excited for you to come on Athletes and Assets and share your story for like the first time. So it's pretty sick. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for having me on. I know this has been a long time coming. And so super excited to be here and chop it up.
Stone, let's get the small talk. You are going to be in 1 to 2 categories in my history books. Like there's either 1 or 2 options here. Okay.
Let's see what they are.
All right. So 1 or 2 scenarios in my history books are going to happen. You are either going to be the most delusional, stubborn person, one of the most delusional and stubborn people I've ever met, or you are going to go down as one of the most smartest, like forward-thinking people I've had a chance to come across, and still stubborn.
See, that's the thing. Sure. I think they go hand in hand. I don't know if there's necessarily a difference. To accomplish great things, you have to be a little bit stubborn and a little bit pig-headed. At the end
I don't think
day.
there's a middle ground with you, man. Honestly.
I try, but as much as life should be lived a little bit more in the gray, it's very black and white at times.
So, all right. So look, here's what we'll do. We're going to talk about, we'll pick it up from Arizona, because I think that's where the story gets really interesting. Obviously, you're from Southern California. You went to Cornell, had a really great career there, did a grad transfer year at Arizona, pre-NIL era. So we don't have much, actually, Sean,
I was on the phone with my assistant coach actually from Arizona the other day, and he was like, "Yeah, Stone, if you came out from Cornell and today, with NIL where it's at, guess how much he said that I would have made? Maybe not at Arizona, but guess what my market value as a player would have been coming out of school?
What was it?
$800,000. But
Jesus.
I did get free tuition at Arizona and a stipend. So, and now they have a lawsuit for House versus NCAA. So there might be a little bit of money coming to me, far from the massive 6-figure deals going around today. But I'm very happy for the athletes and happy at least there has been changes going.
Arizona's always been a forward-thinking school. I mean, you guys sort of observe NIL before NIL happened. No, I'm kidding. I mean,
I don't know what you're talking about with that. I have no comment, to say the least.
Okay, no comment. We'll keep it moving. Okay, so to set the stage here, man. You had a good season at Arizona. The year you played, and some of your teammates. I'll just rattle them off. Yeah. From Nico Mannion, Brandon Williams, Josh Green, Zeke Naji, Christian Koloko. These were all NBA players, and you decided to jump in. You ended college before I did, but we ended up working in the same office building. Tell me about how you went from Arizona basketball and deciding that venture capital was the first place you were going to go right out of college.
Well, I think it kind of goes back to a little bit of my goals, when I transferred to Arizona in the first place. I was really lucky coming out of Cornell to get a lot of interest across, most Power Five schools, to be honest. And it really came down to Stanford and Arizona and Vanderbilt. And, Stanford, I was a little bit on the nerdier side growing up and always wanted to make sure that, I had that covered. I didn't hit my growth spurt till late in high school. And so, I never really thought I'd make it as far as I did with basketball to begin with. And I had a chance to walk on at Stanford coming out of high school, but then to, get scholarship offers from these great schools in a school like Stanford, it was just really refreshing and, a validation of all the hard work that I had, put in. And then, even though coming from Cornell, it might have seemed like a better fit to go to Stanford, I just felt like I wouldn't be able to reach my full potential unless I went to Arizona. If I went to Stanford and didn't make it to the NBA, I would have always questioned, what would have happened if I would have gone to Arizona. Would things have been different? A big thing during Sean's recruiting pitch, was talking about all these guys coming in, a guy like me coming into play that, was never really the first option, I would say, on any of their teams from middle school, high school, even in college. We had a great guard, Matt Morgan, that, was a stud. And so really have always been more complimentary. And now to get a chance to really be thrown into the fire and playing with 7, 8 McDonald's All-Americans and vying for minutes, that was an incredible experience and opportunity. And I was lucky enough to be starting alongside, the guys you mentioned with Nico Mannion, Zeke Naji, Josh Green. Christian Koloko actually came off the bench. But that's just because I had a little bit better of a jump shot at the time. But that's all in the past now. And, everything was going really well. I was full blown, like playing professional basketball and really excited to continue the journey after the season and see where it took me. And, then we get to the conference tournament in Las Vegas. We're a week away from the NCAA tournament. I just transferred from Cornell so that I could play in the NCAA tournament and get this incredible opportunity. And we had just won our first game at the T-Mobile Arena. We go back to the MGM that night, and that's the night Rudy Gobert touched all the microphones. And a couple hours later, the NBA shut down. Next day we wake up, conference tournaments canceled, and the NCAA tournament's canceled, and I'm back home in my childhood bedroom 3 days later, and figuring things out. The whole world was shut down, so there wasn't a ton going on with basketball. It was uncertain whether the season was going to continue, let alone overseas basketball, which was probably a little bit more up my alley at the time. And they have significantly less resources than the NBA. And so, it was a question on when, if these leagues would ever get going again. And so I went back home, stayed, consistent with my training and, was still working out, but also exploring other opportunities. Even at Cornell, I joined this business fraternity, AK Psi, because my whole life I've been told the ball's going to stop bouncing. And luckily for me, it has continued to bounce pretty far. But, I always wanted to make sure that I did have that plan B, plan C. And so through networking and, a lot of great opportunities and some great experience, working for Feinberg Investments, while I was at Arizona in the previous couple summers, which was a long short equity hedge fund, I got the opportunity to join Excel and had to have a tough conversation with my agent, who got me a 6-figure contract to go play in Japan as well. And we ended up turning that contract down to join Excel on their growth team as an investor, which I was really excited about.
Yeah, that's, the pandemic made everything really weird.
It was just a completely different time. Like the thought of going halfway across the world to Japan, where I actually just did that. And so now I know what the experience is like a little bit better. Yeah. But I would have been in Fukushima, just like completely different world and lifestyle after seeing it too earlier this year in the fall. I'm very glad that I wound up making the decision I did to join Excel and, just taking all of those learnings. I think,
there's a couple of things here that are interesting to me. I think first off, and I wrote a little bit about this in our blog, that I think if an athlete is coming out of their sport, I think a great first place to start professionally is actually in a junior level VC role, because you get to kind of survey the landscape of like what's not. And then most importantly, if you're going to do entrepreneurship in the future, learning pattern matching and like seeing how to spot a pattern, I think is super important. And for you, from the get-go, from when we met, you have been all about crypto. I mean, to your credit, you have stuck sort of through the, you've been all in on it ever since I met you, even through all the ups and downs of the cycle and the sentiment of the public and investors. Like, you've always been deep into the Web3 space. Can you talk about where that interest originated?
Yeah, I'd say the first time I heard about, crypto, it was back when I was in high school, flipping Nike sneakers with a bot that I had gotten developed for me from this coder over on freelancer.com. And my mom at the time was like, you should start putting your money into Bitcoin. And I'm like, Mom, be quiet. What are you talking about? This is back in, the mid 2010s, when Bitcoin was less than $1,000.
Your mom was trying to put you on game.
She was trying to shill. Yeah, back then. But, it's my mom and I love her to death. But I obviously
take your mom seriously.
Yeah, I didn't take her seriously enough. And then, obviously it had a few cycles since then. And it really wasn't until after Arizona that I started getting involved. I was researching, what was happening with the Bitcoin halvening. And I was like, oh, this seems to be pretty bullish, in the past few cycles, maybe I should get in, didn't put nearly enough money in. And then what really happened was NBA Top Shot blew up. And what was it? Early in 2021. And I was lucky enough to be a little bit early there and, started just digging deeper into the space. And luckily I was in a position at Excel where, I had the breadth to really call companies, across different industries. Excel has great investments from, while they have made their name really in cybersecurity, they've done a ton outside of cybersecurity in the consumer space, general productivity, and have really made a breadth of investments that's enviable to a lot of different VC firms. And so coming in there, they gave me a laptop and were like, go find us the next Atlassian, go find us the next Facebook, go find us the next Slack. And it was really up to me to kind of figure out where I was going to be spending most of my time. Ideally down the fairway at Excel, so that investments would be a little bit easier. And so with that in mind, as NBA Top Shot blew up, I started building out our thesis around kind of this second, third generation marketplaces that we were starting to see. And so what I mean by that is just, Excel had made investments previously in Etsy and Goat. And so as thematic investors, we wanted to find things that could parallel those investments. And so I started spending more time in the space, and you're starting to look at different companies like Masterworks. You're starting to look at companies like Masterworks fractionalizes high-priced, expensive, wealthy artwork pieces, that are in the $10 to $100 million range and fractionalizes them for retail investors. Looking at things like Fundrise, which, on the same sort of side for real estate, they're fractionalizing shares for retail investors. Same thing, Excel, we ended up investing in Rally, one of these marketplaces, similarly fractionalizing, collectibles that are super expensive. And so just in general, I started noticing a few things in crypto that got me really excited. Number one was just the ability to add liquidity to traditionally illiquid markets. I thought was really exciting and starting to pick up buzz as you were able to tokenize some of these different assets and put them on chain and provide liquidity that was previously not there. Secondly, also, I started seeing great opportunities for people to earn small amounts of money. Obviously, for you, a big baller, Noah, $5 a day might not mean much. But for the vast majority of the world, especially in undeveloped regions where now they have access to the internet with Starlink, now they have mobile devices, what can they do on their phone, and earn $5 to $10 a day? And I think crypto is a fantastic way for them to do that through a number of different ways, whether that be airdrop farming or, just earning yield in different ways we can talk about. I think that becomes really exciting.
Through your global, you get to survey, you survey globally trying to find the next big company. And through that, you found problems internationally that crypto could be a great use case to solve. Yeah, no, essentially, that's what I found. And, I think crypto gets a bad rap a lot of the time, but it has been super impactful for so many different people's lives, especially, citizens of countries where inflation is much higher than in the US. And they need some sort of stable currency so that they're not at risk. I think overall, it just democratizes access to finances in a way that we haven't seen before. Just so we can, even the common investor, the common person who has maybe thrown a little money in a Doge or a meme coin.
Yeah.
Just so we can level with you for a sec. Have you dabbled in any meme coins? You a roaring kitty guy? Like, what's sort of the talk about the degen stuff before we get a little more technical?
I think the degen side of things, for me at least, I'm not going to lie, I did buy some GameStop stock shares, once Rory Kidden came back. I will never go against the community. And I think that's something in this day and age, especially, that people are drastically undervaluing. I mean, you're still seeing Solana meme coins. I mean, the past few months have been an incredible time with, a lot of different coins from Bonk to Whiff like Bowden. All these coins are reaching 9-figure market caps just off the strength of their community and low circulating supplies. But, very strong community basis, has the power to really drive a lot of different price action that I think we haven't seen historically, which I think is really exciting. Yeah.
Well, for someone wanting to invest in crypto, from your perspective, let's say you're in the Arizona locker room and all your teammates were like, what's the easiest low risk way to like get a piece of some of these coins I keep seeing on the Twitter cycles? What's this dummy's guide for getting into that in your opinion? Like, what would you use? What apps? How would you do it?
The easiest way for you to do it is, just download Coinbase. They have a great product. They're a great exchange. I think they'll be around and have a lot of staying power, especially as, the industry continues to develop and, I would say are relatively trustworthy at this point in time, knock on wood. But beyond that, I would focus more on, the mega caps, unless you want to start doing more research. I think you've got a great opportunity, and with coins like Bitcoin and Ethereum, I've always been a big Solana maxi. That was one of the more degen plays that I made, where buying these NFTs called DeGods back in the day on Solana, which wound up doing more than 100x. And so I did all right on those. Wound up selling out a couple years ago. But Solana's community really excites me, and I think they have a great opportunity as an L1 just to compete on fees as well as speed of their transactions compared to Ethereum. But Ethereum's network is massive, and they're making a lot of great strides in the layer 2 space, to help increase their transaction speeds and throughputs. So overall, I would stick to those three at this point, unless you want to do a little bit more research and start learning about how to bring funds off of Coinbase and having a little bit more fun.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we're not ready for all that fun yet. Man. We got to start somewhere with you.
We'll get there.
Yeah. So that's great context. So obviously we've established that, you have, even since high school, have been familiar with sort of, the Web3 landscape. But I want to hit the fast forward button a little bit on your journey. You left Excel, worked at a couple different crypto shops, but also relived your professional basketball dream. You literally went from venture capital to Japan and Portugal, and you're playing basketball. You're also investing in crypto. You're working, you worked at a couple different spots. You did what I call and this is okay. And this is what I did as well, sort of the reverse trajectory. Very fascinating. Past couple of years for you, and I'll set up how AI intersects. But any comments on that?
Yeah, no. If it seems like I'm indecisive, it's probably because it appears to be a very indecisive journey. But I think it all wraps up nicely now, or at least hopefully it does. But I mean, even while I was at Excel, I felt a little bit of imposter syndrome the whole time. While I was there, working remote, I think wasn't the best environment, and you're working with literally the best investors in the world. And so, of course, coming in as your first, real job right out of college, you're not going to be as knowledgeable as any of these partners at the end of the day. But it did give me a great opportunity to, learn a ton and meet a lot of really great people. And, throughout this process, then at the same time, I'm seeing friends of mine that, are playing overseas as basketball and the world is reopening. And honestly, it just looked like a lot of fun. And every single time I went to go pick up a basketball, play pickup, I seemed to shoot the ball pretty well. And, it looks like the 10,000 hours hadn't gone away. And so that was part of the decision also to leave Excel. It was a great firm, and I wanted to make sure I spent at least a couple years there. And then so after that was up, and I wanted to jump a little bit more headfirst into crypto, as well as, you
Yeah.
get an opportunity to start training again, shed some of those pounds that I might have put on, after my playing days.
Yeah, no, you definitely slimmed down a bit, man. You look, I saw your last highlight reel, man. Looked in shape, shooting the ball well.
Yeah.
But this is important to note. So like while you're overseas, like not saying crypto is going anywhere, but out goes the crypto hype cycle and in comes the AI wave.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating, right? So over the course of the past couple of years, with this process, we've seen the rise of, and we'll get into it, sort of large language models, the approach, the pursuit of AGI, if you will, your OpenAI saga. Everyone is throwing any type of money in AI pot, any place where there's .ai around it seems to be getting well funded. So before we talk about Mira, can you give us give your take on what's happening right now with artificial intelligence from a bird's eye view and why we should care?
I think from a bird's eye view, artificial intelligence is giving people tools to be extremely more efficient. We've had productivity tools like Calendly, as help speed up your ability to, create meetings and schedule meetings. And then AI is taking this one step further and, beyond that, doing all your outbound, and really creating more opportunities for individuals to, act as though they're, replacing 3 to 5 workers. Now the work of 3 to 5 people can be done with one, depending on which tools that you're leveraging in the stack. And there's going to be a lot of different opportunities for projects to be built, which we really just haven't thought of. So like the way that I view, AI at this point, and this is an analogy that I'll draw, is, it's kind of the early internet days, before, like right at the time of like camcorders and video, and before YouTube, I would say. And so right now you do have these bare bones. You're like, oh, camcorders, these are cool. Like, what am I really going to do with it? I guess I'll shoot video, but you don't really have editing tools. You don't have a platform to post it or anything else. And then, which is similar to how we've seen technology shifts, over time, go from more monolithic to, much more curated and specialized over time. And so as we see AI shift, I think we're at we're completely redefining compute at this point. And we're going to continue to push the boundaries of this and create more specialized solutions. And if it feels like right now AI is a hype cycle, or you don't quite understand what AI is, I think that's because a lot of this infrastructure is in the process of being built, as well as rapidly evolving, which is one of the issues that Mira is trying to solve. But even in the past, 6-7 months, if you're building any type of LLM, you're going through multiple iterations on the data side of things, multiple models, whether that be Llama 3 or, whichever else.
Whoa. We got to slow down on the terminology, bro. I know you're really excited about this, but we gotta, I want to do the best we possibly can. Well, this is going to be imperfect, but to be able to dumb down a lot of this stuff for our audience. So essentially what we have, is this wave of models that are being made, and basically a set of, the best way I can try to simplify this down, and please correct my paraphrasing, is we're creating now ways where we're creating a bunch of algorithms where you have input, and because of machine learning and different stuff, the AI, it can generate something for you without you having to do a significant amount of legwork. And so,
no, and I think, like where it comes in handy is, I'm sure you're a Jonah Hill fan, right? Noah, you've seen War Dogs. And so, what's interesting is like, in the movie War Dogs, their whole job is sitting in front of a laptop, meticulously scrolling through that government website, which then leads you to product pages like, oh, we need X number of, ammunition, and whatnot. And it's got a lengthy government contract. And so what I'm talking about is like building different models that can essentially do that job for you, and based on certain filters, based off of X number of dollars, for the contractor, like X ammunition or a specific type of ammunition, or whatever it is. And this is just the War Dog scenario. We can create models now that can quickly read through these government contracts and, help optimize, number one, a curated list of more priority contracts that you should focus on, or also at the same time help you create more optimized bids. And so imagine that, that's for one instance with military funding, but there's a lot of other opportunities with the billions of dollars of government contracts out there. So does that
no
help?
doubt.
I don't know.
Super helpful. So you have people, you have really smart developers who are creating models benefiting humanity. And humanity is, you're either getting rid of unnecessary jobs, or you're augmenting and like supporting current folks who are leveraging AI to do their jobs better, more efficiently. And you guys spotted a problem where like you're making these models, but you're not necessarily being like rewarded in the proper way. And you believe that crypto is sort of like the answer to this. Can you talk about the genesis of Mira and you starting this? What is the problem you're looking to try to solve? And then we'll talk about, I guess, the backstory and your co-founders.
Yeah, no, I'll jump right into that. So while I was overseas, actually, I was able to reconnect. I was just kind of poking around in my network, as you have a ton of free time when you're over there. And so I started talking with one of my friends, Karan, who worked at Excel on this team in India while I was there. And we spent a ton of time working around all things Web3 together as we were building out Excel's Prepared Mind. And as we reconnected, we started chatting. And he had been talking about this problem that he had seen in the open source developer ecosystem. And so you look at fantastic products and, projects that have already been built on open source historically and, traditional tech. You look at Atlassian's origins and a number of others.
Sorry, what is open source? Give us a quick rundown on open source.
So open source is just, if you're looking through, go on GitHub, and it's a place for any developer to post, any code repository that people can then, modify and play around with. And they post these absolutely free. And it's typically where you see a lot of the cutting edge technology advancements being done, and then what someone like OpenAI does is, they will take those open source models and prepackage them into a much simpler manner to then give to the public so that you don't have to worry about the line by line intricacies of what's going on.
Got it. Thank you.
And so we saw this problem, with open source developers contributing a significant amount of work, into the space and not being rewarded for it. And so the origins of Mira really come around from this, trying to, number one, help solve some of the infrastructure problems that AI developers today are facing by simplifying a lot of these with our marketplace. And then number two, getting open source developers paid. And that's really where crypto comes in. We really think of ourselves more as an AI company first, with crypto really being the methodology, behind securing the space and facilitating payment flows to our developers.
Right. Okay. So you got the old band back together. You're like, okay.
And a great CTO from one of the Excel portfolio companies. Sid is fantastic. Sid and Karan were talking about this idea a little bit before me, and looped me in on the founding team right as we were going out to raise our pre-seed fundraise back in February.
Okay. Let me just jump right into it. You've raised millions of dollars pre-launch.
Yeah, number one, I think it comes down to the team that we have, with the experience that Karan, Sid, and I have, as well as we also have around 10 other team members that are mostly in India, APAC region, on the engineering side.
You already have 10 people on your team?
Yeah, no, we've got a fully built out team. We've been working on this we've had 8 engineers working around Mira since the fall of last year, going, and that's where we're talking about the iterations and some of the developer challenges, that come across with AI. And we have firsthand experience, from the work that we've been doing over, almost a year now. And so it's really exciting, to see these challenges. And that's the only way that you're going to be able to learn how to figure them out, is by really being in the weeds with everything. And, luckily with Karan and my experience, working at Excel, as well as Sid working at Stater Labs, which is a liquid staking platform with over $2 billion in total value locked on it. We seem to garner, a good amount of interest. We initially we were only going to go out and raise a pre-seed round back in February, but that wound up quickly being oversubscribed. And so we raised a little bit more than the initial 500,000 that we were targeting.
just a little bit more.
Just a little bit more,
7 million more than the 500 target.
Well, then, they came to us and we had one of our investors came to us and said that they wanted to put more allocation in. And so we were like, we think it's a little bit early. We were planning on raising the seed later this summer, but, serendipitously, I think, the timing just came together. Luckily, the market seems to be in a relatively stable spot for crypto and, a much better spot than it was last year at this time. And, we ended up getting preempted for the seed round. And it seems like, there's a lot of people with a similar thesis that thinks that we have an interesting problem statement that we're trying to solve.
Yeah, look, many people say, maybe get some money before you make your first hire and make some revenue. But this is like such a technically challenging problem. I guess you guys said, look, we need to have 10 people on staff before we really get after it.
In an ideal world, you need to get revenue, but crypto is such an interesting space where you're rewarded so heavily for being early. It forces VCs to, look beyond some of the traditional business metrics that they might, when making a pre-seed or seed investment. But then either way too, I mean, you've talked with founders and everything else, isn't it at the pre-seed seed stage more about the people and that you're betting on? Not necessarily like, it seems like the TAM, obviously with the buzzwords in the market that we're going after, it seems like there should be a pretty, intriguing TAM opportunity. But then, if you're able to put a few people behind it that are really passionate and have great experience working in the space, then I guess you can get a little lucky.
What's your day-to-day look like? I mean, have you been the fundraiser? What's kind of been your main role these past couple of months?
It's really a jack of all trades, which I love, having such a breadth of exposure from everything from on the fundraising side to things, hiring, headcount. We're still looking for some people. I'm looking for someone to join me on the ecosystem side of things and help build out our business development team. We just hired someone on marketing, but I was trying to spearhead a lot of our marketing just as we were closing different partnerships. Overall, I'm trying to do more of our go-to-market and growth strategies. And so that's fallen into partnerships mostly. And I think we're in a really great spot. We're announcing partners, on a weekly basis, and we've got a great pipeline of 10 to 20 announcements that we're almost, withholding from the market at this point, just because we want to make sure that each one of these partnership announcements is more thought out and not just co-marketing, but that the communities can see the technical integrations and the work and thought going behind each specific partnership.
What's a good partnership for you? What makes you happy from a partnership? Like, can you name any names?
I don't know how technical I should get, but one that's really cool. One that's really cool is actually a little bit of a blast from the past. But while I was at Excel, I became good friends with the founder at salad.com, which is
salad.com.
Salad.com. And guess what they do? They enable you to essentially use the extra compute from, different devices like, an Xbox or a PlayStation, any device with a more sophisticated GPU. And, they'll leverage this in the back end to add compute resources to their network, which are then, have I already lost you? I've already lost you. They give college kids a way to make money off their Xbox. And we recently re-engaged with them because all of these AI models, they need inference providers to essentially power the models, which is how the open source developers get paid via our platform. And then also, it turns into a great partnership with Salad.
Dude, you said I'm partnering with salad.com. Guess what they do? And I was about to say, make salad? That was like, your answer was an obvious answer of what they actually do.
I guess I'm not as funny as you, but I'm trying.
I mean, you said, guess what they do? So I'm like, well, presumably salad.
Yeah. Well, they bring all the ingredients together to make a salad compute.
I see the metaphor for sure.
Almost. But it's been great reconnecting with a lot of these, people across, my connections from Excel and then just my time in Web3 before basketball. Yeah.
Do you still feel like when you're pitching or, telling developers about your, what you're building, do you still feel like you have to, lean heavily on the AI component and kind of brush the Web3 to the side? Do people get turned off when you talk about the crypto component, or are you targeting a group of people that, just if you get it, you get it?
I think it really depends. And that's the beauty of the business is, like the government contracting, project that I'm talking about, that doesn't necessarily need to be a crypto based project. The only reason why we're actually incorporating crypto is just in terms of the security of the network, and ensuring that open source developers will get paid for their models. So essentially, I don't know if we're going too technical again, but we take all the AI models, but we take all the AI models and put them into smart contracts as objects, which ensures that developers will get paid for their work in perpetuity.
Got it.
And so there are some projects that we're talking with that are on the crypto side of things, that obviously love the crypto, but then we're also able to kind of play both sides and, abstract away the crypto for use cases that are a little bit more traditional and B2B, whether that be the government contracting business, or we're also building out different models for a white labeled education app, that we can sell and help optimize studying. And there's, a number of other different ones, but obviously we want to make it as easy as possible for people to leverage our models, which we're calling flows. And for this to happen, you need to abstract away the crypto at times.
So OpenAI has ChatGPT and like the fake Scarlett Johansson. Anthropic has Claude. You guys have Klok.
Yes, we have Klok, K-L-O-K, which is the first product that we're kind of bringing live to market as a dedicated crypto co-pilot. And so what we've done is we've scraped crypto Twitter, and then, a lot of other data sets to have a custom data set that we've combined with, the data sets earlier and that I was talking about and mentioning. And so by training our model with a crypto specific data set, we've been able to give people a co-pilot that is overall just a better user experience if you are crypto native. And so, if you ask it what Solana is, it tells you about the cryptocurrency versus the beautiful beach in California. And so with this in mind, it's just giving crypto users a little bit more specific information. It'll be able to give you price alerts, price action, help enable trading all in the app, as well as give you more targeted information if you're just browsing around a website, and just wanting to learn more about a project. It'll give you more simplistic answers, reading through their white papers and synthesizing information versus you having to sift through what could be 50 to 100 pages of docs. Got it.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think you guys are onto something here. And
I hope so. We'll see. If we can solve the issues we're trying to solve, I think it could be a pretty great opportunity. And execution is always the question.
Where do you hope to be in like 5 years from now? Like, where do you want, where do you want Mira to be?
Oh, okay. So not me personally on a beach in Hawaii.
If all goes well, shouldn't that come with it? And maybe not, but.
That's a great point. But I think, in 5 years, I would like Mira to be at a point where we have, 7 figures of users, and have developed at least, 1 or 2 more viral consumer apps, that can be leveraged and, are driving actionable traffic with the site. And I want Mira to be what GitHub is today. I want open source developers to think in their mind about Mira versus, posting on Hugging Place or GitHub. And so I think that's really the vision that we're striving towards, and just making an ecosystem where someone like you can go build a website on Wix, right, Noah? You can go through easy drag and drop. You should be able to, you're a smart guy. And so we're essentially trying to build that tooling for anyone to create an AI product. And so give you that same simple, modular type of tech stack, that you can go in and build whatever custom AI tool that you want, whether that be, a trading bot for all your degen trades, or, a project that, just keeps your newsletter going and, synthesizes and summarizes all your podcasts so that you don't have to do the annoying, summaries on a weekly basis, or, investor updates or whatever it is. And so we want to create more of a low code, no code experience for anyone trying to leverage AI with anything that they're building in the future, and create a more seamless experience so dumb guys like you and me can figure it out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's really cool, man. We got the next OpenAI, but with a crypto application, and the co-founder could hit a jumper every once in a while. So that's very every athletes and assets-esque. Well, I really appreciate you breaking that down, man. This has been another great episode of the Athletes and Assets podcast. I'm your host, Noah Lack, and I just had a great conversation with Stone Gettings, former Cornell, Arizona basketball player, now the co-founder of Mira, building the next billion-dollar open source AI crypto company, all the buzzwords, but there's really substance behind it. So Stone, thank you so much and welcome to the community.
Thanks so much for having me on. Had a blast today. And if anyone wants to learn a little bit more than happy to chat.